In 2015, Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig made a Lifetime movie called A Deadly Adoption. This movie was just like any other Lifetime movie, except that it starred two very famous actor-comedians. People couldn't figure out if it was a straightforward Lifetime movie or a parody. It wasn't a parody, it wasn't supposed to be funny, and therein lies the comedy. At least according to Will Ferrell. I'll explain. There were two very different reviews published after the film debuted. One from the New York Times and one from Rolling Stone. Actually, there were a lot of reviews, but I'm highlighting these two specifically because according to Will Ferrell, the Rolling Stone got the joke and the New York Times completely missed it. So, what did they each say? The New York Times review amounted to, "What the hell did I just watch? Why did they make this? It is just like every other Lifetime movie, and it's not even funny." But the Rolling Stone review basically said, "This is just like every other Lifetime movie, which makes it super funny." Apparently, Will Ferrell feels that the joke is that two famous comedians made a Lifetime movie. They didn't make a parody of a Lifetime movie. They made a classic Lifetime movie. The plot elements in this movie are ridiculous, but they are ridiculous in the way that every Lifetime movie is ridiculous. Nothing that happens within this movie is out of bounds for what could potentially happen in any Lifetime movie. That's why it's amazing. And now let's walk through the movie itself. Things will make more sense. Will Ferrell plays Robert, a finance writer, and Kristen Wiig plays his wife, Sarah. When the movie opens, it's their daughter Sully's first birthday party. Sarah is currently pregnant again with their second child, but due to an accident on the dock, she loses the baby and is seemingly rendered infertile. Robert has to perform CPR. This will come back later.
Sarah, breathe. Okay.
I feel like I see this type of shot very often in movies when relating to miscarriage or infertility. Like, you just see the couple from down the hall or through a window and they start crying, but there's no real discernible dialogue. It's kind of like the scene in Up. Miscarriage is a bit dark, but it's par for the course with Lifetime. I mean, murder, assault, abuse, tragedy, it's pretty much their bread and butter. And now we fast forward 5 years. Sully has type 1 diabetes, and likely due to lingering PTSD over the accident, Robert is very protective of their daughter.
Leo, what?
With tassels and everything.
I thought we said we'd wait another year.
I know, but all of her friends have bikes and I couldn't resist.
But we've talked about this. You know exactly what happens to her blood sugar level.
Sarah also has a local organic food business, because of course she does. Since Sarah can't conceive again, she and Robert are looking to adopt a second child. So the adoption agency brings them a sexy young pregnant woman named Bridget, who is very eager to meet them.
I did read one of your books, Mr. Benson. That, not just a 4-letter word.
Yes, of course.
I'm actually a really big fan.
When they hear Bridget's tragic backstory, they immediately invite this woman that they just met to move into their home. Sounds perfectly reasonable.
Is she gonna be okay in that shelter?
What if she were to stay with us? People do that, right?
Well, yes, it's done all the time, but you should take time and think about it.
The first real sign of things to come, aside from all the other signs, is when Bridget tears up a magazine photo of Robert and Sarah. The year in stocks! There's this underlying plot line of Robert not wanting to go on tour for his next book because he partied too hard during the last book tour.
I just don't have the stamina to go on the road again, especially after last time.
Oh, come on, Robert, you're not fooling me. No one partied as hard as you did on the road.
Apparently he blacked out at one point.
If you recall, I blacked out last time.
I hope he didn't do anything while blacked out that will come back to haunt him during the course of this movie. Apparently Robert is a super famous financial writer, which in the world of this movie, like him going on tour is on the same level as a rock star going on tour. Like apparently he has groupies who want to see him.
Fine, so lay off the booze, but you still have groupies and they want to see you.
Debbie.
Or I mean, maybe there are people out there who are just throwing their panties at Susie Orman or Dave Ramsey, who were the first two names that came up when I googled famous finance writers. Most of this movie treads just on this side of what you would expect from a Lifetime movie. Like you have this sexy temptress who's always trying to seduce the husband, no matter the age difference or his attractiveness or personality. But the finance groupie thing, it takes it just a quick step over that line, but then it steps back real fast. I feel like the lighting keeps changing on the viewfinder, but I don't think it's changing in the room. Like I have windows, but like they're far enough away, they shouldn't affect this. Even when Robert's wearing like a sweater, the pregnant girl is always wearing like these little cami dresses. She mentions drinking coffee a couple of times, and it's a little bit heavy-handed.
Yeah, I don't operate without my coffee. Some coffee, but I'm not really hungry.
Is it because you're not supposed to drink coffee if you're actually pregnant? She mentions not being hungry a couple of times or not wanting to eat. And it's probable that these are subtle yet intentional hints that she is not actually pregnant, but it's also possible that the scriptwriter just didn't care. Raw fish and soft cheeses? Pregnant women love those. Now, let's get back to how finance writers have groupies in this universe. There's a weird little scene inside of a closet. Like, Bridget is trying to seduce Robert by looking for sunscreen.
Here's bug spray.
Okay, should be right by the bug spray.
I don't see it.
Sunscreen.
Awesome.
Even the lighting and the way it was shot feels so awkward and separated from the rest of the movie. The obviousness with which Bridget hides the sunscreen, it is just mwah. It's becoming very clear that Bridget wants Robert for herself, even though he has the personality of a baked potato.
The life of a writer. Wow. It must get hard, Robert.
Hard? It is sometimes.
Alone. All the time.
The terrible dialogue. Ugh. Classic Lifetime. It's weird watching a Lifetime movie with real actors because even if they're phoning it in, it is still way better than the usual performance you would get in a Lifetime movie. There's a scene at the beginning in the kitchen where Sarah is remembering how Robert used to be different before her accident, how he used to be a little more fun and he would dance and sing around the kitchen.
I really think another baby will bring the old Robert back.
I remember that guy. He used to dance around this kitchen to corny old music.
Yeah. Seems like a million years ago.
And in that moment, you can see actual human emotion in her eyes. You don't usually get that in a Lifetime movie. Will Ferrell has a certain Will Ferrell-ness to his delivery, but even still, his intonations, his timing, his facial expressions, it's all very good and professional quality. There's a scene in the coffee shop where Bridget runs into the gay best friend character named Charlie.
Charlie. Sarah and Robert's friend?
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was on the phone and my mind was a million miles away.
Yeah, don't stress about it. I'm completely forgettable.
There are parody elements here, but they are so subtle. Charlie has no real other purpose except to give, some of the other characters someone to talk to sometimes.
Just leave her alone in the house with Robert?
She's 6 months pregnant.
Some men like that.
How would you know?
Look, gay people live in the same world as everyone else.
Bridget ominously watches Sully sleep, and then it just cuts to a scene of her taking the training wheels off of Sully's bike.
No more training wheels. Are you ready?
Yikes. Bike yikes. We meet Bridget's skeezy boyfriend, and he acts very suspicious, you know, as if he is supposed to be the actual villain of this movie, and Bridget is just like this poor little innocent pregnant girl. You know, if you've like never seen a Lifetime movie before. Robert tells Bridget that he's afraid of the water, and that'll come back later.
The truth is, I'm actually afraid to get on the water.
And then he goes into talking about the accident on the dock.
Some years ago, Sarah had an accident.
Accident.
The dock broke.
Robert reveals to Bridget that he blames Sarah for what happened, which, oh my god. But it's also about what you would expect from Lifetime.
Worst part is, I blame her. I know it was an accident. If she just hadn't acted so foolishly, I just can't seem to get past that.
Ugh, but Bridget really eats this up because it is validating all of the crazy fantasies that she has rattling around in her brain.
I've never told anyone that before.
Well, maybe you feel safe around me.
Maybe.
Robert tells Sarah that he found a box of chocolates in the pantry, and he is clearly mad at her for it being there.
I was in the pantry today, and I found an unopened box of chocolates.
It was probably a gift or something.
Come on, Sarah.
Since Sully has type 1 diabetes, he refuses to keep sugar in the house. And that scene gives us this masterpiece of a line.
You know the dangers of diabetic ketoacidosis?
I love it. And then Robert storms off.
Ever since you got back from your last book tour, you have been completely shut down. It is suffocating. What is going on?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
But we all know that that fight wasn't really about chocolates or diabetic ketoacidosis. Sully creeps into Bridget's room like a small weirdo and like peeks through a crack in the bathroom door as Bridget is getting ready to take a shower. And then Sully and the audience realize that Bridget is wearing a fake belly. Bridget quick scrambles to come up with an explanation.
So some women, when they get pregnant, they have big bellies, and some don't. I have a small belly, and I do have a baby.
But Sully is a child and therefore very stupid, so she buys it. Robert gets suspicious and he ends up snooping through Bridget's room, and he finds one of his books in her bag, and he signed it, but not to Bridget, to Joni, which flashes him back to the blacked out memories from his book tour, and who would have thought that would end up coming back? And he remembers sleeping with Joni, who is now calling herself Bridget, so he knows that things are not as they seem.
Bridget. Sully. Sarah?
So Bridget kidnaps Sully. Robert and Sarah call the police, and of course when the police arrive, they show them like an actual photo of Bridget Gibson from the adoption agency.
Is there any possibility that the woman who's been living here is not Bridget Gibson?
We see Bridget and her skeezy boyfriend, and like I'm not really clear on what their plan is at this point. Is it like extortion? Is it ransom? Like, why did she seem really into Robert? It is hard to explain the comedy that's in this movie. Like, it's steeped into every line.
There's nothing we can do.
Well, what are you doing?
I'm making a flyer.
But you kind of have to be familiar with the genre in order to see it.
When we lost the baby, I went crazy. I said yes to every book tour.
Like, if you're a movie reviewer who is just watching this movie because it has Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig, like, you're not gonna get it. But if you're someone who has watched a bunch of, like, very formulaic made-for-TV movies, you will absolutely be in on the joke.
If you think I hate you for cheating on me, you underestimate me. I hate you for endangering our child.
My baby is out there without her medicine with a crazy woman.
Meanwhile, Sully is with Bridget.
My tummy hurts. Yeah?
And she seems to be on the verge of having some sort of blood sugar episode, so Bridget sends the skeezy boyfriend into town to get some candy. Earlier in the movie, their friend Charlie saw Bridget with the skeezy boyfriend, and so now he is giving a statement to police.
So you saw this girl Bridget get out of a truck. What kind of truck?
Just a regular pickup truck.
What make?
I don't know. Older? Not too old. It was green and white.
And the whole scene is just rife with awkwardness.
Tell me about the guy.
He was scruffy, you know, had a 5 o'clock shadow. He was wearing jeans, maybe cowboy boots.
It's beautiful. Of course, the sheriff ends up being suspicious of Robert despite all of the evidence to the contrary.
Are you afraid of him?
Mr. Benson? No.
Has he ever been violent around you?
No. Look, you're barking up the wrong tree.
By the way, the actor who plays the sheriff apparently approached Will Ferrell at one point during filming and asked him, is this supposed to be funny? It's not very good. When Charlie is leaving the police station, he sees the skeezy boyfriend, so he decides to follow him. He does try to call Sarah, but the call is very broken and spotty.
Hello? Really?
He's skulking around outside the cabin, and here's his reaction when he steps on a twig. And then they shoot Charlie like a dog. I see it, Will Ferrell, I see it. And I get you. Oh hey, she made the flyers. A shot of a dog smelling the flyer. We get a montage of the flyers set to sad music. This is magic. This is art. The sheriff seems to think that Robert is conspiring with Bridget for no real reason, except because Lifetime.
In light of what you told me about him and Joni, is it possible that they're together right now?
He even shows her the photo of Bridget's skeezy boyfriend who is wanted for 2 murders.
He's wanted in Texas in connection with 2 murders down there.
But no, that middle-aged dad seems mighty suspicious. By the way, Bridget's real name is Joni, but I'm going to keep calling her Bridget just for consistency. Bridget rents a boat to sneak up to Robert and Sarah's house in order to steal insulin for Sully, and we get a shot of her very impractical shoes. I like to think this was intentional, that she was like, I need to leave some really confusing tracks. Bridget ends up running into Sarah at the house, and Bridget taunts her.
Your stupid fruit stand with organic vegetables.
Bridget, please.
And basically kind of repeats what the sheriff said and implies that she and Robert are working together.
I'm her new mom now. Robert and I are gonna take her away.
Robert's with you?
Mm-hmm.
She does reveal that apparently after their one-night stand, she did get pregnant with Robert's child, but she is no longer pregnant.
I got pregnant with his child. I carried him around for 3 months and I lost him.
And then they fight. This movie has a fight scene. But Bridget knocks Sarah unconscious and puts her in the car, which she leaves running in the closed garage. So Sarah's death would look like a suicide, although the sheriff would probably still blame Robert. Then Bridget confronts Robert, and it does not go the way she expects.
You're free. We're free to be happy.
What did you do to her?
I took care of her.
Where is she?
Robert, you're acting very strange.
And then she shoots him in the arm when he tries to call police. And then we have this slow motion jump as Robert tries to knock the gun out of Bridget's hands, but the gun goes off and Robert falls to the ground. Bridget flees and Sarah is still unconscious in the garage as it fills with fumes. Since Joni screwed up and she didn't get the money that she told her boyfriend she was going to get, she and the skeezy boyfriend fight, so she shoots him too. Then she goes full Lifetime crazy.
Shot me!
Mommy is already dead. I'm your new mom now.
But Robert isn't dead, and he saves Sarah in what must be the best scene in this movie. He tells her to breathe in a callback to the beginning of the movie when she fell off the dock and he pulled her out of the water.
Sarah, breathe. Sarah, breathe. Sarah, breathe.
It's like Chekhov's gun, except absolutely not. Robert tells Sarah that the only way for Joni to get out of town is by crossing a specific bridge. So Robert takes a boat. Earlier in the movie, he said he was scared to go back on the water because of Sarah's accident, but now he has to go back on the water to save his family. The music swells, the tension rises. Will he make it in time? Go, Robert, go! Will Ferrell's face on the boat, like I am screaming by this point in the movie. By the way, one of those gunshot wounds looks like it got him almost in the chest. And the skeezy boyfriend got shot in the stomach and is still like up and walking around. Getting shot or stabbed in the stomach would be a terrible way to die. Stomach acid leaks out, burns your insides. Anyway, he makes it to the bridge and waits. And then it's a game of chicken between him and Bridget. But Sully grabs the wheel and Robert is able to dive out of the way, right onto his injured shoulder, and he doesn't even flinch. The truck crashes. Sully flees. Bridget's airbag did not deploy, but she's still not dead and she wants Sully back. Robert whispers something in Sully's ear.
I need you to do something, all right?
Last chance, Robert!
What was it? What did he whisper? And then Sully begins to walk towards Bridget before she stops. And then Sully jumps off the goddamn bridge. Robert follows behind her, and Bridget shoots but misses. And then Robert and Sully make it to the boat, and Bridget aims the gun, and then the boat won't start. Oh my God, the boat won't start. We hear a gunshot. Sarah. Also, the way Sarah is holding the gun is like the way you're supposed to hold a gun. Just saying. Bridget is dead, and their family is safe. 6 months later, we get a nice little time jump so we don't have to deal with the immediate emotional or legal ramifications of the events we just witnessed. Sully is riding her bike, and Robert seems to have relaxed.
She sure loves that bike. I told her she could ride into town tomorrow.
Look at you, not a care in the world.
The anxiety that once haunted him is now gone, and he begins to dance around the kitchen just like he used to back before the accident. Dancing! No lingering trauma here! Whee! Charlie who? More dancing! Inspired by a true story. Audience reviews online are mixed, with many people asking what the point was and telling Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig to stick to comedy. I will let you be the judge of whether or not this movie is funny, just because it exists. However, what I will say is that I understand this movie. Will Ferrell loves Lifetime movies in the same way that I love Hallmark movies. I know they're not very good, and then I watch a ton of them, and then I rip them apart, and then I watch even more. And if I were as famous as Will Ferrell, you better believe that I would approach Hallmark and tell them I want to make a movie. But I wouldn't want to do a parody. No, I would want to make the most on-the-nose Hallmark movie possible. It would be a Christmas movie, and I would be a big city career girl with like a vague job in marketing and like a fancy rich businessman fiance who's on his phone all the time and like gives me his credit card so I can go buy my own Christmas present. But I'd go back to my small hometown for Christmas to help my dad save the family cookie company. And while there, I would run into my childhood neighbor who would be named like Matt Pine or something. I almost said Chris Pine because I was thinking like Kris Kringle and Pine like the tree, and Hallmark movies like to do that with names. They like to kind of make them Christmassy. But Chris Pine is already taken. No, you know what? It is Chris Pine. It is Chris Pine. This is my dream. It is Chris Pine. Anyway, Chris Pine is not an actor. He grew up to be an artist who makes Christmas ornaments out of glass. And he wants to help my dad save the cookie company. But my big city boyfriend thinks that my dad should just sell the company and then take the profits and buy a condo down in Florida. So me and handsome small town Chris Pine come up with a festival where he'll make glass ornaments of my family's most famous cookies, and then we'll serve the cookies, and somehow that will help. And it does. Chris Pine and I fall in love, and then I dump my big city fiance, and I quit my job, and I move back to my hometown to take over the family cookie company, and then Chris Pine and I live happily ever after. The only thing is that, similar to what Will Ferrell did in A Deadly Adoption, I would want to include a few lines that were just like, a little bit too on point. Like, I'd want to say to my best friend character at one point about my big city fiance to justify like all the time I'm spending flirting with Chris Pine. He's just so busy all the time, and he doesn't love Christmas the same way I love Christmas. And if he doesn't love Christmas, can he really love me? We all have dreams. Of course, the sheriff? The sheriff? It's a new type of police position.